Hey, GERO 200. Today is Sunday, November 16th. Here we are closing in on the end of the semester once again.
Week 13, USC Trojans beat Iowa. That was awesome.
That was exciting.
And sometimes when you're an athlete, things happen. All right, so here we go. So that's what it looks like when you have a sling following rotator cuff surgery and a couple other little things.
So if you have a bad shoulder, don't be afraid to get surgery, because if John can do it, you can do it too.
This is my ninth orthopedic surgery, all related to sports. So be a sporto and then see what happens.
Okay.
All right.
So this week we're talking about two things: financial power of attorney and also elder abuse. And those things really go hand in hand, because we see in the United States that the number one type of elder abuse is financial abuse. So we're going to give you some advice, some tips about how to handle financial issues.
Here's the other two things.
We have doggies.
There's one. It's Desi, and look who's over here.
Where is she? Lucy.
We have two things. Two things that are dogs. There they go, and dogs. Okay, I'm sure you're always entertained by our dogs, but they are insane. Okay. There's my arm too, that hairy ass arm.
When we talk to the computer screen, they think that we're having a mental health breakdown, and they come and check on us. Which is fine.
Two things needy.
Okay, so let's go
away,
to
Desi.
Week 13.
Desi, go away.
See what's going on.
All right.
So a power of attorney, we talked about power of attorney for healthcare, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that is when you give someone else the power to act for you. That person is your agent. Just like if you want to buy a house, you hire a real estate agent, and that person does your bidding and acts on your behalf to find houses for you. So with a power of attorney, you are the principal. So you're the person who has the money, and then you're giving someone else the power to act for you. So you want to be cautious in the sense of who you give power of attorney to, when does it go into effect, how much power do they have, and the standard legal documents that set up power of attorney often will have a list of 20 different things that someone could do for you, like handle your health insurance issues, handle real estate transactions, buy and sell cars, pay your bills. And so you may choose to give someone a limited power of attorney. So you may just want someone who can pay your bills for you. Or you may want someone that can do anything for you. And quite often when you go to an estate planning attorney, they will help you with a will, a trust, and then a durable power of attorney for financial and a durable power of attorney for healthcare, so that you'll have all these documents looped together. You don't necessarily need a lawyer to do this, although it's probably more important to have a lawyer for a power of attorney for financial than it was for power of attorney for healthcare. If you just have like a Fidelity account or a Bank of America account or a Wells Fargo account at a bank, those financial institutions prefer that you use their forms. So you could potentially just go to your bank, go to your investment manager like Fidelity or Vanguard, and get their form and fill it out. So that simplifies it a little bit, and then you don't have to pay money to get a document created.
So we'll go ahead and go into the ARP.
So we have a little short reading from the AARP.
It relates totally to, we're going to talk about elder abuse, and sadly, the most common form of elder abuse is financial elder abuse. So you choose wisely with respect to this. And so I'm going to go ahead and bring this up right now. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my two needy dogs and I'm going to take them outside. Okay. I'll be right back.
3 days of rain creates very needy dogs. They did get walked today, though, because the sun came out. Okay. So when we talk about power of attorney, you're the principal, you're the person with the money, you're the main person, and then your agent is the person that you're designating to act on your behalf. Let me see if I can scroll this down a little bit. There's a couple different types of power of attorney that are the types. We talk about the different types in terms of when they go into effect and when they end. So you might have, for example, a conventional power of attorney that you signed to give someone else the power to act on your behalf, and it will stay into effect until you become incapacitated and unable to make your own financial decisions. You could have a very limited power of attorney. In today's world, for example, if you're doing a real estate transaction, a lot of those documents can be signed via DocuSign, so you don't have to physically be present. But in the old days, when you had to actually go into an escrow office and physically sign a document, if you were going to be out of town, then you might name someone to be your power of attorney to sign documents for you. When I was handling my dad's estate, because he lived in Louisiana and I'm out here, and he had a couple pieces of property that we had to sell, and I didn't want to have to fly back to Louisiana every single time, there was a close of escrow. I signed a power of attorney that named my probate attorney so that he could go and sign those documents for me. And that worked out great.
Louisiana probate attorney.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that worked out perfectly because he was already handling the probate and he was super nice about it. So a springing power of attorney goes into effect when something happens. So you could have a springing power of attorney that goes into effect when you become incapacitated. And the complication with that is, how do you determine if someone's incapacitated? And so quite often you'll need to get one or maybe even two opinions from a doctor that say that this person's no longer capable of making their own financial decisions. And that can be a little bit traumatic, both for the person who's seeking to enforce the power of attorney and for the person who's getting their ability to manage their own transactions taken away from them. So I don't love a springing power of attorney.
I'm putting a big X to this as a big no.
I don't love it. A durable power of attorney is my favorite thing because you can sign it. It remains in effect throughout your lifetime, unless you cancel it. So what many people do when they do their estate planning document is I've named John, my durable power of attorney for financial. He's named me, durable power of attorney for financial. And
then we have our children as backups.
Yeah, as backups. So. Again, you always want to have that layer. So you have a primary person, but what if that person isn't available or doesn't feel up to it, or, they have their own issues, their own health problems? Then you want to have someone who's number two, someone who's number three. And that gives you enough layers of protection. If you've got a primary, a secondary, and a tertiary person named, then that'll usually take care of it.
And we'll talk about kind of a case study when we do elder abuse and discussion, where we have financial power of attorney for my brother, and we were just kind of watching over his accounts, and then we alerted him when something didn't look right. And we'll tell you about that in a second.
So anyway, so the durable power of attorney, you can cancel it by signing, tearing it up, telling the person they're not your power of attorney anymore, notifying your financial institutions they're not your power of attorney anymore. Signing a new power of attorney would be a smart thing to do, because a court or a bank is going to look at which document has the most recent date. So that's pretty important. But you want to be careful. So you don't want to give someone power of attorney if they aren't good with money. And so you might have a person who's really good with healthcare decisions, and that's the person who has your durable power of attorney for healthcare. And then you have a different person who's very detail oriented, who's financially stable. They're not going to be, robbing your bank account. And so you want to really carefully decide who's going to have power of attorney. And let's say, for example, we see a lot of stories in the news of wealthy people, so famous people in Hollywood, professional athletes who have a lot of money and they don't have a lot of time to manage their money. So they give power of attorney to a financial advisor, but they don't have anyone watching over what happens. And so we've had really smart, really successful people like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar who have lost a ton of money because they gave power of attorney to someone who then misused that power of attorney. So if you are that person that's really successful and you need to give power of attorney to someone, then my recommendation is, okay, then have someone else that's going to be reviewing all of your financial documents and watching to see if things get, what are you doing?
So I was just saying, sorry. So I was going to piggyback on what you said. So this goes back to what we talked about in terms of financial planning. Okay. And so you can do all this on your own, and you don't have to sign away all of your rights in terms of handle all my money. It's a good idea to keep, this is why we have this section here so that you become kind of empowered to do your own financial planning. And that was also the point of, when we did the second critical thinking assignment, same drill, where you guys learned the power of financial planning. Anyways,
Okay, no problem. You can tell we're married because
yeah, it's all good.
I don't hesitate to ask what's happening to me now.
It's all good. What's funny, just kind of an aside, when the dogs were here, anybody has a dog knows what they're doing. And so on Julie's side, Desi kept doing that thing where he'd
Oh,
lift the arm. And the reason I put him outside is I'm the guy that just had the rotator cuff surgery. So what do
we
you
don't
think
want that to happen.
well, what do you think he did? He came over here
He did?
underneath my sling and
That's terrible.
my arm, but I knew it was coming, so I just grabbed his head and said, you know what, you can stop that right now. So
Got to protect the shoulder.
okay, let's go
at all
back.
costs.
Sorry.
Okay. So yeah, and so one thing that I've done in the past, I've had apps where even to monitor my own finances to make sure nothing weird's going on. I've had apps that will alert me and say, "Oh, you had more than $500 come out of your checking account. We're just letting you know," or you just had this bill, or So the app that I used to use was called Mint. It doesn't exist anymore. So I'm still looking for a really great app now to replace it. So if you're helping manage finances, or you're looking out for a loved one who's older, who might have given someone a power of attorney, I think it's a great idea if you can kind of monitor their accounts from afar and make sure that you don't see a lot of sudden and unusual withdrawals. Now, if you give someone you make someone your agent for your power of attorney financial, they do not have the right to take your money. They don't own your account. They do not have the right to use your money for their own needs. That would all be a serious criminal violation. And that doesn't mean it doesn't happen, but they do not have the right to your property and your money.
But you can pay their bills for them and stuff like that. You just can't be using their money for your own purposes.
Yeah.
All right.
So how do you cancel it? You tear it up, you sign a new one, you send a letter or notify your bank in writing that this person doesn't have power of attorney anymore. And that's pretty much, it's a pretty simple concept, the financial power of attorney. So let's go down to the elder abuse section. Oh, and then the one last thing I would tell you is lawyers and people that do a lot of financial stuff, they'll call it a POA, power of attorney. So you may see that abbreviation and don't get confused when that happens. So we have this elder abuse module. Like I said, it goes hand in hand with financial abuse and financial power of attorney. And one of the big things that we see, first of all, is that elder abuse happens all around the world. Some of the statistics what we're talking about will be from the United States. Some of the graphics we'll show you are from the World Health Organization, so they apply worldwide. But I often have people say, "Oh, in my culture, in my country, we revere older people, we respect older people, we would never do that." The reality of life is that caregiving is hard. And when you have more and more people that are getting older, and you have a big burden, and maybe you're that they call it the sandwich generation, when you're taking care of your own children and you're taking care of your parents and you're working full time and there's a lot going on, that creates situations where caregivers have a lot of stress, and elder abuse can happen even with nice people. So we want to talk a little bit about, what are the stats related to elder abuse? What are the symptoms you should be looking out for? How can you prevent elder abuse? What should we be doing to approach it?
And here's some basic prompts that you guys will address when you do the discussion.
Yeah. So one of the things that's absolutely true is that elder abuse is very, very much more common than we realize. 1 in 10 people per year report having been abused that year. So this is on an annual basis, 1 in 10. So over time, if 1 in 10 people, get their scooters stolen at USC, it may happen to you more than once over time, when the frequency is that high. And when we look at this, the percentage basis, financial abuse by a family member is number one. Potential neglect is number two. Emotional abuse is number three. And then fortunately, physical and sexual abuse fall far behind at number four and number five.
People, oftentimes justify the financial abuse with like, oh, they have so much money that, they don't need it, but I do. So it's okay, so it's sad. But anyways, here we go.
So who are the abusers? They are the people who are in close contact with the victim. So 90% of the time, it's going to be family members. If the person lives in a facility, like a long-term care facility, assisted living facility, then it can be the people who work in that facility. So the abusers are going to be people who have access, and most often that is family members. So your adult children, your spouse, your partner, your niece, your nephew, your grandson, your granddaughter, those people that are close to you and have access to you. And that leads us to the next statistics, which is most of the time elder abuse doesn't get reported because let's put yourself in the shoes of a vulnerable, frail, 85-year-old person, and your family member is abusing you, and you feel shame, you feel guilty. Did I do something to cause this? Do they not care about me? Do they not love me? What happens if I report them? And then the only support that I have goes away because now they're going to, abandon me. So often older people are very reluctant to report elder abuse, particularly if it's done by a family member. They don't want to get them in trouble. They're afraid of being alone. And they're afraid that, hey, if I even tell people about this, they won't believe me. So that's a huge problem that I think we could address with education and better oversight by mandated reporters. So
the most vulnerable people are then abused by the people that they trust the most. So it's a real circular, ugly situation.
For people who have dementia, they are at much greater risk, partly because of increased caregiver stress and because people with dementia can be hard to deal with. But also, I think there's a risk that the people who are committing the abuse think, oh, no one will believe them. They're not that coherent. They're not going to be able to tell people, I can get away with this. And there are times when you have someone with dementia where they say stuff that isn't true. They're confused. They're mistaken. John had a grandmother that lived with his mom and dad for many years until she passed away. And she would sometimes say, oh, I think so-and-so is stealing my money, or I think so-and-so is stealing, and she didn't actually have any money. So, his mom knew that she was just confused and worried and mistaken. And because she didn't have anything to steal, so she, wasn't worried about it really happening. Now, once you are a victim of abuse, it increases your risk of bad outcomes. So self-neglect, which is the person's not taking care of themselves. So in a way, they're neglecting themselves and abusing themselves. That makes you more likely, almost 6 times more likely to die within a year. If you are just a confirmed victim of elder abuse, you're twice as likely to die. If it's suspected elder abuse, it's like almost 1.5 times more likely to die. So these people, think about the stress that you would feel if you are a vulnerable person and someone close to you is physically, verbally, psychologically abusing you. That stress is going to lead to health issues, and that will just accelerate your downward decline as you get older. So this is the next graphic is from World Health Organization, and it explains the different types of abuse. So I think we all understand physical abuse, that we'll if you see an older person with black eyes or marks on their wrists or bruises that are unusual, as you get older, you do tend to bruise more easily. But if they're not the type of bruises that you would expect to see, if it's finger, the imprint of a hand, you should be suspicious. And doctors and nurses are trained to look for those signs of physical abuse. Now, what can be harder to detect is psychological or emotional abuse. So telling the person no one cares about you, nobody likes you, nobody wants to see you, and isolating the person. So that you need to look for signs like suddenly the person seems fearful, they seem more withdrawn, you're not able to reach grandma or grandpa. You call and their caregiver always says, oh, they're asleep, or they don't want to talk to you, or they're in the backyard, I can't get to them, or they're in the shower or something. If you're not able to put eyes on your loved one and there's a caregiver between you and the loved one, you should start getting suspicious that they're being confined or isolated by an elder abuser. You want to make sure that people have multiple eyes checking on them. Sexual abuse can happen particularly in facilities. It can be one patient who has dementia abusing another patient who has dementia. So sometimes people with dementia do act out sexually. It can be the caregivers in the facility. The workers that work in the facility can be perpetrators of sexual abuse. And then financial exploitation, again, it's close family members. And then if you're in a facility, it could be the people who work in the facility. There have been some high profile cases. There was a woman in Tampa who stole $100,000 worth of money and jewelry from residents at an assisted living facility before she was caught. So there are things in place to protect patients and residents at nursing homes and assisted living facilities from financial exploitation. So when you move in, the facility should be keeping an inventory of what you had when you moved in. If you came in with a Rolex watch, you better still have that Rolex watch a month or 2 or 3 later. It better not disappear.
With respect to this, I was going back to my brother. Yeah, so we had durable power of attorney financial, and he met somebody, sadly, that does not have his best interest in mind. I'm much younger than him, a woman much younger than him. He met her at a bar, and then since we were monitoring the bank accounts, and I called them and said, Tim, I think somebody has stolen your access to your bank account, because I just noticed $8,000 was gone, and then 2, and then 4, and then he was kind of like sidestepping the issue, and then finally he said, oh yeah, this woman I met, I bought direct on her.
See, he'd known
and it was psychological manipulation on her part that led to financial exploitation.
He'd known her for only a few months, and what was interesting about it is that after that, she kept telling him, you don't need them to be involved in your finances. You don't need them to be helping you with paying your bills. You don't need that. You could do it yourself. So she's clearly had clearly tried to get him, but he knows that he needs help, and he doesn't want to give up our help. So he has shut that down so far. But she's
like a yo-yo. She comes back. I mean, here we are. We're experts in this, semi-experts in this. But when the kind of case we're talking about, you're kind of limited in what you can do, in terms of contacting authorities to step in. It's a very difficult process, and so we all we do is on our end, and we're just trying to keep him aware that she is abusing him. But then she taps into his weaknesses, which is part of his weaknesses is substance abuse. So she's an alcoholic, and next thing we have his Find My iPhone, but we'll see him going to bars all around the city, and we're like, oh my God, she's back in town again. So it's a very difficult thing. So anyway,
but it's good. I think the fact that we are on his team and helping him and providing oversight has helped protect him, just in the sense that she knows that we're watching.
Yeah, and he has a limited awareness.
It is what it is.
Yeah. So anyways, and this goes back to what Julie talked
Yeah.
about. These are the
So
two most likely candidates.
who's
So,
gonna commit elder abuse? People who have access to the older person.
and that
So
woman who's an actual professional that sits at the end of the bar and finds old white guys.
yeah.
That's so anyways.
So I really love this World Health Organization chart because it talks about the risk factors. And so if you look at this chart and you see risk factors that kind of remind you of your grandmother, grandfather, your auntie, or uncle, then you should be thinking about it. So for the victim, we see poor physical health, maybe being depressed, being low income, things like that, significant disability. So the more physically frail you are, the harder it is for you to get out of your house and for you to be out and about and to be more independent. If you're depressed, you may be less likely to stick up for yourself and say, hey, that's not right. You can't do that to me. My law school professor, I've said this before, used to always say rich people get better stuff. So if you're a wealthy person and you're older and frail and living in your own home, you might have a cleaning crew that comes in and cleans your house. You might have a gardener that comes and takes care of your yard. You might have a personal trainer that comes and works out with you. You might have home care workers that come and make food for you or do your grocery shopping or help you get dressed in the morning. So you have a lot of different people that are seeing you and could express concern or be witnesses or, prevent the abuse from happening. But if you are low income and you don't have good transportation, you may not have access to good health care. You may be just physically isolated so that you're in your apartment and it's hard to leave. And so not a lot of people are seeing you. That isolation that can be a result of being low income can create higher risk for elder abuse. And then
that taps into this graphic that Julie put into when we have this loneliness and isolation.
Yeah. And so who are the people that commit the elder abuse? They are people that may have mental health issues. They may be depressed. They may have substance abuse issues, alcohol or drugs, and they may be dependent on the person that they're abusing. So they may be forced to live with them because they don't have the opportunity to have their own place. They may be financially dependent on them. So, you may have a grandmother who lets grandson move in because he's between, places or between jobs and he needs a place to stay. And she's like, honey, come on. And then next thing you know, things go bad. So just keep an eye on those risk factors for your loved ones. And then these are just comments by different experts in the area talking about, the things that you can do, like setting up a trust. And
which is what we have. My brother, because my brother keeps saying, I got to change my will. I got to change my will because of this person that he just met.
Yeah. So
and,
she's now.
And I'm like, yeah, right.
Whatever.
Change your will because guess what? The trust overrides the will. So you can, because he doesn't understand
she's
financials.
now pushing him to change his will and leave everything to her. And he's known her for about a year at this point. And they've dated and broken up probably 10 times.
My brother is a very.
What are you going to do?
Disjointed 73-year-old. He's not, he's no catch, believe me. So, but he's got some assets. He's got some money, and
he's inherited a house.
He's got nothing. She doesn't work. She's 20 years younger. Yeah. It's just like my head wants to explode.
Yes. Well, life is not perfect.
But we're monitoring it.
Okay, so let's go down and talk loneliness and isolation. Thing about loneliness and isolation, it's not a problem to be alone, but if you feel lonely, that can create health issues. So I think it's probably healthy for people to be able to spend some time alone and not be sad.
Everybody's different, so
and I'm perfectly happy, sitting on my couch with my dog.
I like to hang out with the guys at the hut down at the beach a little,
watching the Bears game. It's all good. But if you have loneliness, that loneliness affects your stress levels. It affects your immune system. It affects your likelihood of developing dementia. And And the science shows that loneliness is as dangerous as smoking 15 cigarettes a day, which is horrifying. But it's very common for older people. As you get older, again, it's harder for you to get out and about.
My mom lived to be 95, and she outlived all of us.
Yeah, she had to go on
She had to make a whole new set
because
of
everybody died. So the factors that increase your
family.
risk of being lonely and isolated are being over 80, having health issues that might prevent you from getting out, not having contact with family. And so often in the US, I had relatives in Illinois and I had relatives in Louisiana, and I ended up in California. So I don't physically see them that much. Luckily, with technology, when my mom and dad were towards the end of their lives, I could stay in pretty close contact with them by phone calls and email, and kind of with my dad, I would watch his health accounts and help him with that and help him with his insurance. So you can still, even if you're far away, you can still have more contact with technology. So, and again, being low income, you don't have transportation, you don't have money to go out and go to the movies or go to a restaurant or whatever. And then changing family structures. We have a high rate of divorce. You might have more people not having children. And so there's going to be a little bit more isolation because you don't have a stable family structure. So how do we help people? How do we prevent this? We want to make sure that older people have good access to transportation. So I know in our community, there's a van you can call that will take you for free to the community center, where then you can participate in exercise classes and, games like bingo or bridge or whatever, activities for older adults.
Most universities have outreach to their local centers that are community centers that are servicing older people, and there's outreach to local assisted living facilities, things like that. So if you want to get involved, certainly, we have programs out of the Davis School of Gerontology, and I know programs at the university where they do the same thing.
And there are a ton of student groups that we have in gerontology that they'll go to a nursing home or an assisted living facility and interact with the adults and things like that. So there's a lot of cool things that you can do.
Day. It's huge. So
we want to make sure that we have communities that are older adult friendly with easy access. We have a senior living apartment that's across the street from our local grocery store and our local Starbucks. And so we see those people walking over there to kind of do their shopping all the time. And using tech is great, so that you can keep an eye on your loved ones and watch what's happening. We have tech that shows if the person's gotten up and opened the refrigerator, if they flushed the toilet. There's all kinds of technology.
Cameras all around the house. And a lot of times people are like, oh, my grandparents and parents, they can't handle tech, blah, blah. Well, guess what? Every generation is pushing in. So tech is part of your generation, and you're going to be going one of these days.
Yeah.
And we're very techno. So
I'm
going to go let my techno dogs.
My dogs are protesting the fact that they're outside. So we need to be mindful of the fact that older adults may have greater risk of being lonely and isolated, that can have really profound health effects, and that can put them probably at higher risk of elder abuse as well. So the discussion prompt is, have you seen evidence of elder abuse? It may be with someone that you knew. It may be a friend of yours told you about it. It may be something you've seen in a movie or a TV show. Just tell us what you think about it, and, what you think we should be doing to prevent and address elder abuse. And there's certainly a lot that we can learn from cultures that treat older people with more respect and dignity. We could do a better job in the U.S. There's no doubt about that.
And for the Marshall majors and the future attorneys, link it back to this concept that we brought up with the lecture part, with the reading, from ARP about getting your ducks in a line in terms of having the financial power of attorney, and how that might be important too.
Okay,
All right.
that's all we got.
All right, guys, peace.
Midterm is coming up. It's going to open 2 weeks before the end of the semester, so that if you have a really busy last week, not that many people are going to be ready to take it the week before, but we just wanted to give you that opportunity in case your last week is really crazy. I'll send out a review.
And I guess we have one more lecture on
Yeah.
trusts and wills.
Yeah.
All right. So more attorney stuff.
You're
Okay?
almost done. Hang in there.
All right, guys. Take care.
All righty. Bye.
Bye.